I request Vishalji to open the meeting and share a few words with us.
Thank you, Anchal. And thank you, everybody, today actually joining in. I'm actually feeling happy seeing so many faces after, as Aristide said, after so many months, right? And of course, we all have been stuck at home. Uh, these 2 months or a month and a half went out actually mostly for prayers for people who went away and also for prayers that nobody else goes away anymore. So that is what we did at home. Of course, we have been working. The businesses are trying to maintain the working of the business. But I want to begin by basically praying for anybody and everybody from our contacts, families, businesses who must have gone away, either from any of our business centers, be it Moradabad, Panipat, or wherever, and we have been reading about them and the loss of not only the human beings, but also their brains, or what they must have basically, they would teach us eventually, as in the case of Asif at Dynatech and somebody else, or Mr. Shadilal and at Dhal. They had so much of experience and we lost all those people. So that is where I want to start today. And then I want to say thank you again to everybody for joining. I hope you all are staying safe. The idea of meeting today was to listen to everybody, to understand the problems what our industry must be facing because of the slowdown this time, which has impacted the actual production and the shipping of the goods. Uh, a few of us can probably take that loss. A few of us cannot take that loss. We have to help each other. And I'm also very, very proud to be leading you guys here today. When I actually open up the WhatsApp in the morning and someone has a question about some product or a vendor, and everybody pitches in by helping them, giving out names of factories and vendors and everybody. And this is the best part you can do by sharing knowledge amongst ourselves. So I want to thank everybody. Please keep that going. Information sharing in these times or otherwise also in life is very, very important. What we must have learned over years. Then one more thing I want to discuss before we really don't want to go that into the depth. I believe few of our members received certain notices from the EPCH after the current fair or during the current fair. We are in touch with the EPCH. They've accepted there was a problem there. There was somebody new and he was probably getting money to send out notices. But everything should be taken care of. Anchal is on the job with them. Sam is on the job with them. So I believe we will rest that case and hope it won't happen again. Uh, all of you are welcome one by one when the Anchal takes over to put forth your questions, any queries, any issues you may have. We as BAA will try and assist to the best of our abilities we have, given the circumstances we are going through. I personally also want to thank everybody who must have been helping out during the COVID times. I know Ruma ma'am has been in her kitchen all this while feeding people for the past so many months now. I thank her and I want to learn from her and want everybody to learn that we have to pitch in to help the society also. I know Byron is not here today, but he has been helping everybody setting up the oxygen plants. That is alma mater from the school he passed out from in Mount Abu. So anybody who is doing that job, I would like to thank them all to take care of the society around us. As long as we have friends and family around us, I believe we will always stay together. If we don't lose them, then we lose everything. So please keep on doing all the good deeds and keep continuing. And feel free to seek any questions, answers on any questions. Anchal, I request you to take over and we will open the conversation for the
Thank you,
meeting
Vishalji.
for everyone.
You.
Thank you, guys.
Good afternoon, everybody. So glad to see so many of us together after a really long time. The idea of this meeting essentially was to understand now that the major part of the second wave, hopefully, is over. and we're looking at, I would say, restarting work life in a normal way in the next few weeks. Obviously, our industry has been facing with a lot of challenges. So we wanted to understand in person from each one of you if you as a buying agent are facing any challenges which we need to address. It may be with the exporter associations or with the councils or with the government of India, with the DGFT, whatever different departments, or if you feel your exporters are facing any challenges which we need to address. So I will open the house to discussions from all the members. Please unmute yourself, and I would request if you could raise your hand so that we don't speak at the same time. It would be a lot of help. So may I request members to just raise your hands one by one, and then we can start having a discussion on this particular issue. Rohini ji, please.
Thank you, Achal and Vishal. I think both of you said a lot of very interesting things that the whole diaspora of the buying agents will be looking at and discussing today. I would also like to put in some requests from the members here as to what do they think is what the buyers are looking at in terms of India, in terms of business, in terms of the support that they can offer us in vaccinations, compliances. What basically is their mindset towards the Indian business today, and how are we being able to help them look at the positive angle of India? The positive angle of India is that we are here and we are working despite all odds. And that's what I think the positive things that we need to discuss to go forward. Thank you so much. Keep safe, keep happy, and be positive. Thank you. Thank you, Achal. Achal, can't hear you.
Sorry. Thank you, Rohini ji. In fact, a very important question for us to all mull over as to what is the response been from buyers across the board. If they're being cooperative about things, if they feel differently about India and work from India. In fact, those are things that we also do need to address at a very higher level, because we've constantly, I mean, India has been constantly facing one issue after the other. The first wave of COVID, the transportation and logistics issue, the second wave of COVID, oxygen, unavailability of raw materials. So we've been constantly going through a lot of issues, making India as a very difficult center in itself to work with. So yes, I would. Can I request? Okay. So I would request, मैंने कर दिया sir. I would request people to also come up with their views as to what their buyers feel about India, so that we can kind of see a way through this, because obviously trade has to continue, business has to continue. It's going to be our intervention as to how we explain to our buyers about the current situation and take things forward in a better way for the future. We have Gaurav here who has raised his hand. Gaurav from Rista, would you share your views, please?
So first of all, thank you so much for organizing this. I think it's very well needed, coming at an appropriate time when things have started to open up. If I start shortly with what you requested in terms of the views about India, India is sitting at a very important and bright future prospect. The limitations for India within India itself. If you look at the spread of COVID, Vietnam, South and other Southeast Asian countries are in the same spot, or maybe even worse, because the medical infrastructure is probably not even as good as we have it here. So everybody's looking at India as the option. My colleagues in Sweden are really wanting to grow and explore opportunities here. There are a couple of challenges which are there, and I would like to hear the views of my colleagues to see what are they doing. Number one is raw material. Raw material prices are really fluctuating. I know that in China and Vietnam, the governments have started anti-monopolization, cartelization kind of investigations to control the rise of raw material. I'm not aware if we are doing something like that. That's number one, because raw material is breaking our backs right now. And the advantage will be in Europe or South America, depending on which market we operate. The second thing is the container situation. It somehow we have to get priority because of the rates. The priority is going to Vietnam and China, and India is kind of sitting on the sidelines. Can we get priority? Can this be raised to a new level? Can somebody step in from the state to take care of this issue? So those are the two things that I wanted to raise. But apart from that, I must say we have a lot of strengths in our business and future is looking very bright right now.
Agreed, Gaurav. Very well made points, Gaurav. Just to share with you, in fact, we had a meeting with the AEPC recently to discuss a few matters, and we did raise the logistics issue there also. Just to give you a little bit of a background on the logistics, what's happening is, to be honest, I don't know how many of you are aware, but we as Indians are much better placed in terms of rates of containers in comparison to China or Vietnam. I mean, those people are shattered. They are facing rates as high as $10,000 to $12,000. We're still at about $6,000 to $7,000. So we're a little better than what they are doing. And that is probably one of the reasons, Gaurav, as you rightly pointed out, because they're getting better rates, they're getting the priority. Now, we are always in a catch-22 situation. Being a handcrafted country, we are already more expensive in comparison to the other countries. So if we jack up these rates further, then we tip over on the other side to say our products are becoming more expensive. We don't do that, then our products are not even able to go because we're not getting priority. So it is a very bad situation. And it's not only, I think one of the things that happening other than the shipping lines jacking up rates are freight forwarders jacking up rates. So recently that has been observed that अगर shipping line 6,000 दे रही है तो forwarder 7,000 दे रहा है, ये 7,500 दे रहा है. So there's a significant profiteering also that is happening, and I don't think we can really control shipping lines because they will give what they will give. There is really no control over shipping lines. But I do think that the GOI needs to review something and kind of maybe fix MRPs for these kind of issues. I mean, a capping price where we do not go beyond a certain level of profits. Because what is happening right now is that even if buyers have contracts and their contracts are being met out by the rates they have, forwarders are not giving it to their own customers, they're giving it to third parties because the third parties are giving them a premium. And that has become a big challenge for all customers today. So we are approaching this matter, but sadly, except that last time when we did raise a hue and cry about the container situation, there was a good response and the containers started moving in to the dry ports by the authorities. So that was a help. But we're still facing the same issues of getting correct rates and getting bookings, especially for the US. I think Europe is still slightly better. US is in a far worse position. But definitely, I think that's something that we're going to take up and see how we can address this. If anybody in terms of logistics has any contacts, whereby we think we can utilize those contacts to push our mandate forward, please do get in touch with us at info@baa.org.in, and we'd love to work together other than what efforts we are individually putting in at BAA and take things forward. Michael, you're the next one in line, please. After that is Sandhya, just to let you know.
Hi, everyone. My question is regarding the COVID situation. It's not one of my buyer from Europe. Actually, they asked a little weird question. They asked me how long the virus can stay on product or the sample. Sir, let me finish. Initially, what happened that all the WHO sites and all those sites have studies there. There was no specifically written that it is going to stay for that longer time. Plus, what happened when we heard about the South African variant? The neighboring country has accused the South African that the virus has come through the shipping and all those things. It may be rumor, but do we have any kind of written there somewhere? Somebody has any detail about this, so I can share or other people can share with the buyer that they're not worried about the people something coming from the shipment. They are more worried about like if we are sending the pre-production samples or some samples which is reaching like within 3 or 4 days time.
Good point, Michael. And I can personally tell you my experience out of it. I have asked all my buyers to sanitize anything that comes from India before using it. That's a simple instruction given to all my customers, and especially air couriers that are going to them. So we've told them that there are spray sanitizers or other either keep them out for about a week, don't use them, or you see, honestly, there is no risk, because even if it is reaching them in 3 to 4 days, mostly these are so much in transit. And I do think that the cargo companies are sanitizing goods before delivering and before doing any such thing. But just to be on the safer side, I have requested all my customers to sanitize any packet that comes from India.
I wrote everything like this, but if somebody asks if it is something like this written somewhere, so I'm asking about that document. Do we have anything, specifically written there somewhere which can claim कि ऐसा नहीं होगा?
Okay, Michael, let me put it across. As of now, world over, there is no ban on shipping or courier services from any of the governments worldwide. So I'm assuming everything is safe to go either by sea or by air. So that is the basic assumption you live with. If there was a scare last time when people said you should sanitize and keep it out for 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever that was. Yes, Christine, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Sudhir has very sweetly agreed to do some research, Michael. So Sudhir, if you just share that when you do find it. I agree with what Vishal is saying, that everything we're reading it's transmitted from people to people. So it's contact with people. It's the air that people have polluted. There seems to be last year there was a lot of people leaving stuff outside, sanitizing. I think that a lot of that was slightly misguided, and there is no real proof that the virus survives on an inert object. So it will survive in a person and can be transmitted that way. But what you're looking for is you want something in writing to give to your customer because they're scared. So I think we have Sudhir on the job, and we know that he's the best researcher. So hopefully he'll get you something. But I would say that they could probably just call, they should Google the WHO. I don't think there's anything on the website that says.
No, there is, Christine. There is. WHO has declared COVID as an airborne thing.
Yeah, so not in that.
There is a write-up that it is not through transfer or physical touch.
Yeah, so I think that's maybe you could direct them to that page on the WHO website, and I'm sure Sudhir will be pulling it up as we speak. But I haven't, for the last 5 or 6 months, there's nothing that would lead us to believe that the virus is transmitted through objects, through inanimate objects. I hope that helps.
Michael, as I said, we can be precautionary, but there is really nothing written in writing. Earlier, there were certain documents printed to say that plastic will have the virus for this long, paper will have it for this long. But I don't think that really applies anymore. But as I said, just as a precaution, you want them to sanitize, just sanitize. I mean, it's just a mental thing. You'll feel more safe. That's it.
I know all those points, but as Christine just said, all those things we hear from different people, from different sources.
Correct.
But is there any authorized source which can say, "Aisa nahi hoga, ye kar lo"?
You only recommend to your customer. I don't think we'll have anything written down somewhere. See, many of my customers, what they do, they get the samples in a big hall, wherever, and they keep it for 48 hours before the buyer picks up from there. That's the standard practice that they do. They don't, that means we have to keep those 48 hours, when we send our sample, if we need to get any approval, we need to get that in mind. We have to factor that timing.
Correct.
It's there for 48 hours. Only after 48 hours, the buyer is allowed to pick up the package.
Michael, to answer your question, this virus is very unpredictable. We've gone through such rounds of change of information and such contradictory information on the virus that still we don't know what is right and what is wrong. So documented proofs about what should be done is an archaic thing, because that documents change every second, third day these days.
Achal, I've been working with the buyer for a couple of years now. He didn't ask me this question last year.
But
he got scared when this Indian variant thing has come up. He got scared.
I can imagine. No, it is a point. It is a point. It's something that everybody. I mean, if it can travel on inanimate objects, they would be scared about getting anything from India. So it's very logically put. But as we said, Sudhirji is going to do all his review. He's a great researcher. He will come back with a detailed reply, I'm sure. Okay, Sudhirji, now it's on your court to get Michael a proper documented proof of what can be done and what should be done to the samples getting out of India. Done. Let's move forward to the next one. We have Sandhya here. Sandhya, would you come forward and share your views, please?
Yes. Am I audible, Anchal?
Yes, very much. Thank you.
So, hi everyone. Lovely to see you all. It's true, it's been ages. One feels that one's coming out of hibernation, and it's lovely to see everyone and know that we're all sharing our problems. Just two important points that I needed to input. Before I tackle those 2 points, to reply to the specific point about the buyer's feedback, just wanted to let you know what we are getting to hear from our customers. It's a lot of sympathy, a lot of concern, a lot of wanting to do something, and whatever what will help about India. They are extremely concerned about the situation, about ourselves as our families, our teams, our work, our suppliers. And so the only thing that we are doing is that we are giving them a weekly or twice a week, once in 2 weeks, we are giving them a status to kind of reassure them that all is on track. Yes, India is going through a complicated phase. Now no more, I mean, we are seeing the plateauing of the wave, but yes, we have seen some turbulent times and we are back on track. So that's the first thing. And I think customers are really just looking for that. In terms of cancellations, in terms of giving more time, I think they are all doing that. Needless to say, they ask us, when are you able to deliver, and let us know, and we'll make adjustments to our, our schedules. So I think the customers world over are being really cooperative on that score. And just one small piece of advice to everyone, we are all seeing so much of news and social media where in India we talk about the numbers being not really manifested, shown, whatever. But when the same question is being asked to us by customers, we say this is what it is. And we can, we do not need to tell them that it's 5x or 10x. We just tell them that, look, things are in control and India is overcoming it and we are moving on. As one of the panelists, one of our members said, it is about India. It is all in our hands, how we take it up. How we present the India story. It has to be India first, because if India is first, we all are very much relevant. So that's my bite about the buyer's input and what we, as Francis Wang said, what we are doing. 2 points which I wanted to raise, everybody's attention to. Again, I think Gaurav touched upon the prices of raw materials. They are going completely berserk. When the world over, the prices of cotton are coming down, very difficult to explain to our customers why in India the cotton is up, A. And part B of the same point is the organic cotton, which I think we've been mulling over and over again about it. We've discussed, but nothing is in our hands. But it's just that when we talk about it, perhaps, when we share, some things come out of it which we can explain. Even between the last 10 days, the prices have again jumped by 15%. So there are programs that we do which are completely organic, and we only do that business with those customers. To go for those programs to non-organic is not possible, but asking any customer to raise the prices by 35% is kind of crazy. So we are facing very much a challenge on that score. If anybody has an input to give, I would be really hearing that with a lot of interest. And the second point is, if anybody can give us any amount of visibility on the lockdowns for South. I know that the factories in NCR, Haryana, Ghaziabad, Moradabad, Jaipur are also managing. They are all a little bit, all managing somehow. But what is the situation in South? Is anybody, because the numbers in Tamil Nadu are still increasing, anybody can still say that it's going to be on till 7th, because that would be taking a good chunk of India's production. Thank you.
Just to answer your question regarding the south of India, there is a representation that is under progress from AEPC and also from BAA, requesting that certain commodities, especially those the ones that are seasonal in nature or garments, they may be made into essential commodities, so that manufacturing and export can continue. I don't know how quickly that decision will be made by the government. We know how slow our bureaucracy really works. But yes, 6th of June so far is definitely a date when they have a complete lockdown. And I was chatting with Christine yesterday, and I understand it's an extremely strict lockdown there.
Yes.
So they are not able to move a muscle, unlike north of India, where people are still taking permissions and doing their work. In south of India, it's 100% lockdown. So it continues till 6th.
Not till
Nobody knows the
6th.
situation.
It's till Monday. They have to revisit it on Monday, Anshul.
31st.
31st.
I got a news from somebody in south of India just yesterday, Christine, saying that it is going to extend till 6th.
I haven't heard that yet. So
One of the vendors only wrote back yesterday.
Yeah. I think
No,
that's
it is extending. It is extending.
Yes. So
I mean, that would be the expectation. Their numbers are not coming down, especially Tamil Nadu is very bad, and Karnataka is also hit.
Yeah. So it is looking like it is going to extend. Now, I don't know what they're going to do in terms of making some essential commodities and allowing exports on manufacturing of these commodities for the specific time period while the lockdown is continuing. And since the representation are just going out or have just gone out, I don't think there's going to be an immediate remedial action that will be taken. Idea is for us, we all know that there is going to be a third wave that's going to hit in a small manner, in a big manner, in whichever manner. I mean, until we are fully immune through herd immunity, we're going to have these waves coming in and going out. So idea of our representation is more like, since this is going to be a continuous work that is going to happen and these waves are going to keep hitting as long as they have to, we need to at least make sure that we don't lose business and trade, especially for products whereby they're all seasonal in nature, like Christmas and all these Halloweens, all these things, and garments specifically. Garments is exceptionally seasonal in nature. So there is a representation that has been sent out, and BA is sending it just today. So really not much at the moment that I can share with you, except that, yes, it is looking to extend till about 6th. We don't know what is going to be the situation. It totally depends upon the numbers. I don't foresee an immediate remedial action from the government vis-a-vis allowing the exporters to open up. So I think this is a matter of discussion. Probably in a week's time, we should get more clarity on this. Yeah?
I was there for the APC webinar. And I heard it answered, but between you and me, I really doubt that garments, even though we agree it's a seasonal product and it's going to be extremely delicate, but I really think that they're not going to be able to make it an exception of the essential, because it's fairly not. And also a lot of our, the APC members as well, they said who are running factories, they said that they made representations to the government, but even the people we've interacted with, the exporters themselves are not completely convinced that they should be running the factory. So they are actually agreeing with the administration where they say that a proper full lockdown is better because the numbers are skyrocketing.
Okay. So. And Sandhya, this is what we saw even in north of India. I mean, just before the actual lockdown started, we had a huge call with all the exporter associations of Moradabad. And they all said, and the government is not taking any actions to curb this wave. And because we need to break the chain, we are going to impose a self-imposed lockdown.
True.
And I think it's, again, when the government is not taking action, it is up to individuals how they fend for themselves, their workers, their own lives, their families. So I think it was a fair point taken. And I think they managed doing that. And that is the reason probably Moradabad today is in a better shape. Because if they hadn't done whatever partial bits they did, I'm not saying that everybody went into lockdown. A lot of people were still working. A lot of people reduced their manpower. So it was an individual call they took, but well taken in time. So let's see what happens. To be honest, I don't have much hopes of apparels getting into essential commodities because for all you know, nobody is really wanting to buy new clothes when you're sitting at home in lockdowns.
Yeah.
So, you know,
and nobody wants to take a chance.
Exactly. So and moreover, if they declare apparel as an essential commodities, then the entire factory setup of south of India would come alive. It's not.
Yeah, and the made-ups that the
40%
made-ups
comes
would
alive.
say we need.
So that's going to be a big challenge for the government to manage for Tamil
And
Nadu.
like Mr. Satyaveel was saying the other day that none of our factories, we've not really had any loss of life, and we've all taken care of our workers. So for any owner of the factory, that point is extremely important.
Absolutely.
So they wouldn't take a chance.
Absolutely. So if there's any action, definitely we'll keep you posted on it. But so far, this is what the update is for you, right?
Okay.
Sure.
Anybody here has any review on Sandhya's question about organic cotton? Anybody would like to share before we go on to Vishal Rege, who's the next person in line to speak? Anybody wants to speak on the organic cotton issue? Okay, none. Sandhya, what we're also planning to do in the near future is to organize a few meetings with a few councils. Texprocil is going to be one of those councils we will get in touch with. So we would request you to also come and share your views. We've had this meeting earlier also with Texprocil regarding cotton prices, and we did figure out that it was more of cartelization and, hoarding of cotton that had caused those, jack up in prices. But situation doesn't seem to improve yet.
Yes.
And, India, when we're talking about sustainability and about organic cotton and being one of the hubs for organic cotton, it's a big challenge and a big shame.
Yeah.
That one of the in-house product that would have been like a fueling product from India is not able to do well because of whatever reason. So we do need to explore that, and I'd invite you to come over for the meeting when we fix one with Texprocil. So let's review what we can do with them and how we can take things forward. But definitely there's a need to rain check.
Correct. And there are many more reasons, Anshul. So I think a proper discussion is required. We'll do that with Texprocil on a focused point.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Thank
absolutely. I'd invite Vishal Rege as the next speaker, please. Vishal, would you please come in and unmute yourself and speak?
Sure.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the good work BA is doing. And it is good to get everyone on one platform to share their views and see where we are in terms of our own business spheres. I would agree with Gaurav on what he began with. There are certain issues that we together face. Raw material prices, yes, that has been coming up again and again with, sorry, I was just getting a call. So that has been coming. So can we widen our approach in terms of the export promotion councils that we interact with? I see a lot of times we have been talking today about apparel export promotion councils. Like Gaurav and us, we deal with a lot of DIYs. Our core business is to DIY. So we do a lot of engineering product as well. There's a lot of focus for us on the hard goods side, not just in terms of the handicraft hard goods, but a lot of engineered products is what we also source. So can we widen our approach to the engineering export promotion councils and, certain promotion councils like this, where we can go and say, okay, it's not just cotton prices, it is metal prices affecting everyone.
Sorry.
So what I would request is in the coming days, if we can or find ways of approaching these other export councils as well, that would be helpful. One, sure, there's a dearth of business that is going to come to India. We are representing a large, chunk of DIYs in Europe, and everyone is looking at India as a big potential to source products. Yes, there are a lot of handicaps that we have. We are not yet ready in a lot of product categories, but to at least start reviewing or at least to start considering, I think what we need to do is make it a conducive environment, at least for those DIYs to open those categories to us. Metal for all these DIY is a big thing. So let's focus on adding or interacting more with these export promotion councils as well. That is my take on it. So basically, yeah, that is what. The other thing I wanted to add is, not to the core topic, but one of our customer is asking some legal document where we could say that GST has to be built into the invoices that we give them. because we are not a licensing office, we are as a buying office. So we have to charge them the 18% IGST. So they're just asking, is it written somewhere? Can someone share that part with us?
No, Vishal, I can tell you it's not written anywhere. And that is not how it's supposed to be, but that's how all of us are doing it.
Okay,
Can
I get it.
Can I answer, Vishal? Yeah. I mean, you have to pay the GST to your government, whether your customer pays or you pay. If you're a good negotiator, there is no. It's not written anywhere that you have to bill the customer. That's a point of negotiation. So I have some customers who pay, and some customers who don't pay. So it is just a negotiation.
Yes, so
it's not written anywhere.
With this yeah, I agree with you. So with this customer, we've negotiated that we will bill them 18% GST over and above the service charge we bill them. So they have agreed for that. Now what they're saying, their finance is asking, is there somewhere written where GST is to be billed? So that was a question, but they have agreed to pay us. They just need a formal document.
I think, Anshu, we can send him the excerpt from the GST Act. I mean, it's in the whole GST Act. We're covered under intermediaries. So if you just take your,
we can give Vishal that we are covered under GST, but we cannot give him a write-up that says that we have to bill GST in our invoices.
No, that's okay. That would work fine.
That's okay. Anshu, that's fine.
They're just questioning, their finance people are just doing due diligence to say, you know, are you paying?
Exactly.
They just want to make sure it gets paid to the government. You could probably actually show them your GST return, your GST number, and the fact that you filed, you know, that you're paying it.
I have shared that with them, Christine. I did share with them.
They want to see the act. Okay. You can send them the GST Act. It's a monster.
Sure. I would appreciate a copy of that, Achal, whenever it's possible.
Sure. We'll share some excerpts from the Act, which shows that GST is applicable on us. So don't worry about that. We've done this enough number of times. We've been dealing with GST for a good 4-5 years now. We'll share that with you. And on your first point, Vishal.
Sure, thank you so much.
Not a problem at all. What I would like to know from you is, you mentioned that engineering EPCs, Export Promotion Council, must be involved. So, we are absolutely happy to do that. What I would need you to help us with is exactly on what points do we rope them in? Because generally when we are discussing anything with councils, it's more from the perspective of, you know, either improving business, improving terms of business, or improving certain situations, or resolving certain problems. So I would also like to know from you, is there any situation we are facing, or is there any matter that we need to take up with them and take it forward? What is it that you would like us to do with the EPCs?
I think as a collective organization, what I want is to show them the potential that all these overseas DIY have in sourcing from India. You know, it is going to be an overall approach. We don't have many specific issues as yet. We are doing our bit of sourcing, you know, going around finding the right suppliers, or converting other engineering companies to manufacture something that is suitable to us, given the machines that they have, or given the setups that they have. So we are doing that bit. But what I see is that there is a slight disconnect. Handicraft EPCH, AEPCs are very well matured in terms of the export support or guidance that provide to federal exporters. What we see is the core engineering aspect, whether it is automotive ancillary units, they have a very good support from the automotive industry. But when it comes to the consumer products, or when it comes to the products that basically go into the retail DIY stores, we see there is very less support or exposure to the exporters that is available. And they come under the Engineering Export Promotion Council, but a lot of these people have no exposure to going and seeking help from such organizations. But what I wanted to know is, can we facilitate, because we know there is a huge potential, and Gaurav will agree with me. I'm sure he's facing similar problems that we are, you know, to see that, yes, there is dearth of business available where category managers are willing to open it, but we are not yet ready. So if we are able to show this potential to, you know, the promotion councils as a large, now we are showing it to few exporters, you know, few exporters that we are able to identify as core, suppliers or partners with us. But with the Export Promotion Council, I think it will widen. They would be able to guide us. These are our, manufacturing pool of suppliers or certain things that you could approach with similar products and expand it further, because there is some connect from the government of India that is needed to stabilize the prices of raw material, the metal prices. We have 1 week validity. No category manager can review a program for 1 week. It's a worldwide bid that happens. They have quotes across the world that come. And if I ask them, my price is valid for a week, they just don't accept it, or it's not a time frame they can work within. So some kind of a support from the government in terms of promoting the export, if there is, certain policies that they could come up with, would be really helpful in getting huge amount of business.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Vishal. I get your point better now. And definitely we'll approach the engineering EPC. And if you have any other person or any other council in mind, do share with us. I will touch base with you one-on-one post this meeting, and we will take this forward for sure.
Yeah, what we can do is we can give you the customers that we represent, the categories. Gaurav and I can discuss. Probably he can add a few more categories that he's also looking at, sure. And put something across to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds perfect. Sounds perfect. Thank you so much, Vishal. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would now invite Amrish. Amrish, please come up and share your views.
Hi, everyone. It was nice to see everybody. First, Michael, I find out for you. You can find on CDC website how to handle the packages, mails, and everything. And luckily, none of the packages are reaching before 5-6 days. So by the time virus dies already from India because of lack of flights. I was hearing that we had a lot of problem with the raw material, and where we as a buying agent association can help or push the government is, first of all, we can ask government why they are still putting anti-dumping duty on MDF. When the domestic price of MDF are rising crazy, which is affecting the business. Then there is an import duty on MDF and chipboard, which is becoming more and more important part of construction of furniture today. The same goes with the metal. We have still 7.5% of import duty, which government is saying on with media that they want to reduce to 0 or 2.5% import duties on metal. Today, our metal is even more expensive than Eastern Europe, though we are one of the biggest producers of metal in the world. So there, I think, as an association, we can push government that these are the points which can directly affect and which are in hands of GOI.
Correct, Amrish. I think these are very fair points that have been put forward, because these are directly impacting the raw material prices of the products that we're making in India. Definitely, I think that's one thing. I'd like you to work with us closely at BA and let us work towards, if nothing, then raising the awareness and the necessity of these particular issues being resolved by GOI. So let us work in close association if you're okay with that. Are you willing to help us a little bit on this, Amrish?
100%, if I can do. It will be help to myself also.
Done. So I'll be in touch with you. Let us work towards making
so many products, then nothing will happen. Just focus on MDF, chipboard, and metal.
Right.
And they are, because the wood what we use in India, solid wood, that is more of local wood.
Correct.
But these are three things where we can compete if government helps us.
Fair point.
If I'm not wrong, the MDF price has gone 30 or 35% up?
Yes.
45 to 60.
Yes.
And this happened as soon as these people have realized there's an MDF duty.
No, there is I know better than anybody, there is a big cartel going on this.
Yeah, I was going to say, can I interject? This whole MDF, you know, the government started last year identifying 6 industries that they want to grow, and furniture was one of them. Apparently it's Piyush Goyal's favorite topic. So I've been on this committee, and Gaurav can also just chip in. We recommended, we said we strongly recommend that you need to remove anti-dumping and you need to bring import duty down to 0. And there is such a huge lobby. I can't tell you what that MDF plywood lobby is like. I think Mr. Praladkar is on this call. Maybe he can add a little bit to it. It is one of the most bizarrely, and you know, they come on these calls with the government and they say that they can match pricing, they can match quality, which we know is complete junk. But they will sit in front of a government ministry and lie through their teeth that they are fully compliant, that they are CARB certified. Because we said on the basis of compliance alone, India needs to, if they want to grow the furniture business, they must allow equitable imports of MDF and plywood. And it has been absolutely railroaded by these guys. So it's really tough. And, you know, we know for a fact that India is importing furniture, fully made furniture, cheaper from China, and there's no duty on any of it. There's no not from China, sorry, from ASEAN countries, excludes China. But the situation is completely ridiculous that our government decisions are based on these lobby groups without anybody looking at the nonsense. So yeah, Vishal, Amrish, very happy to try again, because it's very necessary in order to be competitive.
Ma'am, there are 2 things which I will say. That what they say is yes, they have CARB certificates. The Indian industry has a CARB certificate, but not the chipboard or particle board industry yet.
Yeah, we know, Amrish.
But when they charge extra for the CARB, they are charging 25 rupees per square feet extra, whereas even in Europe, this price is half.
Absolutely, it's ridiculous.
Then we need to go up. Of course, the lobby will be lobby and lobby is a strong lobby because they make huge money. But if we don't try, then we will never have any possibilities also. And we are not also pushing only here. We are trying to saying even to the embassies there in Europe that you are killing your own business. So we have to try from all sides.
100% agree.
There is very less possibilities of success. 0% success. So we have nothing to lose.
We will try. We will continue trying for sure. Gaurav.
I just want to add on 2 things. Number 1, raw material. Raw material prices for everything around the world, Europe, China, Vietnam, everything is up, including chipboard and MDF. So it might be an advantage that the local manufacturers are taking over here, who are already protected by this anti-dumping. When we were in this project together with Pramod and Christine, the government promised us that for export, they will scrap the anti-dumping, because our argument was that you can import furniture at 0 duty, but not raw material of furniture. And they promised us, they told us they're going to look into it. Finally, what came out was logs came out to be 0% duty, but MDF and particle board did not come out to be, which is completely counterproductive to manufacturing in India. So happy to give out all the material to you, Amrish. We had a lot of material with us. We had done a lot of research. Happy to give out all that material to you and support in any way possible.
I will still say, Gaurav, I know I am in touch with this lobby very closely. Not closely, very closely. But I also know the percentage of success is very less. But if we don't try, we will never have a success also.
Agreed, Amrish. We'll chat to you later and share, and maybe we have to convince the plywood manufacturers that it's not going to kill their business. It will actually give, you know, they're looking very short term. What we were saying is that you have to raise the standards, that actually we need to encourage this competition. We need to allow affordable plywood and MDF to come in, because actually India can make it cheaper. They're a super cartel protected industry, and we actually need to improve it. And it's a very very tight lobby, and very close. So if you've got some suggestions on that, Amrish, absolutely happy to work with you.
Let's try, man. That I can only say. I know possibilities are less. The lobby is
doesn't matter. We'll still try.
Yeah, but we should try. Maybe there is 1% success comes. That will be more than enough. If we can get plywood, MDF, or steel, anything without duty, that will help a lot.
Can I ask Amrish one thing? That we were importing a lot of particle boards from Thailand, and we find a big difference between the particle board quality and the Indian manufacturer MDF, which should be the better in the quality. But we realize, I don't know whether you are you compare it when your company is importing it, but when we import it, we realize that there's a big difference. Even their particle board, they are much stronger than the MDF made in India.
That depends, Michael, what density you are buying.
Correct.
How many? I'm buying myself in India, I buy China, Vietnam, even in Europe with Kronospan, with Unilim, I buy from all those guys. So it all depends upon density and what is the top code layer they are using. You can have particle board from 600 density to 700 kgs. So you can think how much difference it can be.
Right. We have two people. Vishal, Narayan, do you have anything to contribute to this particular discussion, or is it something else that you want to speak about?
Just to support what Vishal Regi was saying, because we work with several DIY stores. And in addition, he made a very good point about roping in the EEPC.
Okay.
And trying to work more with EEPC, because we are primarily focused with EPCH and AEPC.
Correct.
Whereas the engineering export sector is also a very promising sector. Unfortunately, India's engineering exports, are heavily veered towards the lower end of the market, where items are more commoditized. So we really need, if we can, start a conversation with the EPC about not only just educating these vendors, but also about upskilling these vendors. I think there is a huge opportunity for, there are very few Indian engineering companies which are actually doing the kind of engineering exports that China is doing. So
right.
It's very difficult in India to get that kind of vendor. So if we could start a conversation in EPC and get them to start a small upskilling program with the engineering firms, that would be good.
Done. Absolutely. We've taken that point up to interact more with the other EPCs, and especially with the engineering EPC, to promote the export trade of DIY and other products. So we will definitely take that up as an agenda point for BA to take forward. Rohitji, you have something to add on to Amrish's point on furniture pricing.
Yeah, exactly. Hi, folks. All well, I hope. All of you are safe, well, and protected and healthy. Well, my prayers and my strength to all of you. Well, going forward, I have a requirement of 30,000 particle boards as of now on a monthly basis. And we have been kind of, investigating and researching all over to kind of get this. To add to what Amrish said, there are basically, he's absolutely right. The density matters a lot. And also on the density, it depends what kind of fiber you are using, especially if we talk about particle board and, MDF. So as far as India goes, there are two kind of major players in India, and most of the particle board makers are, centered around South India and in North India. And in South India, there are basically two kind of fibers which are being used. One is eucalyptus, and the other fiber which is being used is rubber wood. Now, also considering the density and the strength of these fibers, acacia and eucalyptus happen to be very, very hardwoods. So the density over there comes quite naturally. And as well as for rubber wood, that is also a very high, dense kind of a fiber. Now, when we went out, and Amrish is, and all you guys are absolutely right that the prices in Southeast Asia from Thailand to Malaysia and China, they are much cheaper. However, the furniture particle board which is required has to have a density of at least 650 or 700. Then it becomes a carpentable or carpentry sort of a board. Now, the situation is, if we even import, there is a loadability situation over there. When we were kind of inquiring, we did get some prices, but when we went about shipping, we realized that we can't put more than 1,000 boards in a container because of the loadability factor. Now, with only 1,000 boards, which means I have to import 30 containers per month just to get my 30,000 boards in. So that is a huge factor which kind of, belittles, or rather, is detrimental to bringing the boards in from outside. So there is a huge kind of a gap. So which means either we truck it, bring it through road, which is quite also possible, but then it has to pass through Myanmar and it has to come from Manipur. So where the freight factor kind of adds to it. The prices in India are driven to such an extent that the best price for a 9mm board, which you can get in India, is not less than about, say, ballpark 23 to 24 rupees per square feet, which is kind of very, very tight. And the prices in Thailand and Malaysia happen to be about 15 rupees to 16 rupees per square feet. So, though there is an opportunity, but then, there is a shipping factor, and then you have your duties and so on and so forth, but we can still kind of absorb that. But then loadability factor is one thing which you just can't absorb, and which no shipping company will allow to kind of, load more in a container and to ship it. So that is really, really, whatever others might do or say, unless and until we have some kind of regimen over here in India to kind of, rework the prices or things. But then at the end of the day, for every manufacturer, it's a business. So, he has to see what his costs are and how he can sell it. So that's my kind of input in this.
Rohitji, maybe I can help you. You can buy more cheaper from Kronospan, Romania.
But loadability का क्या करें Amrish?
In landed cost.
Actually, you're on mute.
Thank you.
On landed cost.
नहीं तो Amrish ji, what do we do about the
on landed cost in Mundra?
नहीं, landed cost की बात नहीं है. आप 1000 शीट से ज्यादा लोड ही नहीं कर सकते कंटेनर में.
That's what, even then they have to organize the containers, because your landing it is with freight. That's what I'm saying. Today, Eastern Europe companies are giving more cheaper the chipboard than what Indian companies are offering.
No, my concern over here is not only the price, it is the loadability and the shipping. मुझे अगर 30,000 बोर्ड हर महीने के चाहिए, मैं 30 कंटेनर इंपोर्ट करूंगा क्या? Whereas 30 boards, you 8 by 4 आप कैलकुलेट करो कितनी लोड, आधा कंटेनर खाली आ रहा है. You get what I mean?
38 cubic meter comes in a container.
Can I just interject?
Let's discuss that on personal.
Please.
Amrish and Rohitji, since this is getting into personal domain of importing particular product, can I request you both to please take this offline? Let's please stick to general discussions here, if you don't mind.
Yes,
it's already over an hour. No problem at all. We do get carried away at times.
Please.
Since it's already an hour and we need to wrap up, we still have Kabir waiting for his turn to speak. Kabir, may I request you to come and speak on this?
Yeah, hi Anshul. Anshul, thank you, and hello to everyone.
Let's see you, Kabir. Let's see your face, man. Long time.
No, my camera is not working. That's why I would love to show my face, but it's just technical issues on.
Okay. I hope Dad is good. Yeah, Dad's feeling better.
Yeah, he's doing good now. Thank you.
Good.
So it's a bit unrelated to, you know, the core issues which are related to COVID and, you know, your raw material issues, the container issues. I'm obviously a second generation into this industry. I'm I'm fairly young, so, you know, this is just basis my experience, what I've seen. There are two things that I feel, you know, our industry could do with. One is, I feel like, you know, I've faced a certain sort of resistance with the younger generation of exporters, and not for any particular reason. It's just that, you know, everyone, including me, we always think that, you know, we know it all and we know better. So I was hoping that, you know, we can actually do an awareness drive, or, you know, something, some sort of marketing effort that focuses on awareness on why buying agents are really important. So, you know, we reinforce our importance to the newer generations across different stakeholders, and that could also be a buyer. And second thing is, you know, I think it's time that on an industry level we have more platforms and more databases in place. Since, you know, I haven't really experienced such an open discussion before. I haven't been attending too many calls, but it's really good to see this. And if we can have, you know, some shared platforms where we get information, you know, it could just be simple things like vendors and vendor scores and, you know, capacity, those things that could really benefit all of us. And yeah, these are just two main issues that I feel, you know, out of my limited experience.
Thank you, Kabir. And just to give you a little bit of input on your first request, whereby you were saying that we should have more exposure of buying agents and let people know more about why buying agents are important. We do conduct a lot of webinars, and lately, since COVID struck, we do conduct these webinars whereby we've shared the importance of buying agents in various shows that have happened online. Even before that, at least with EPC Edge, we were having an interactive whenever they used to go to Maison, then somebody was participating there at Maison to share a little bit about the buying agent industry in India. So that definitely has been something that's been a key point for us, and educating the buyers, most importantly, and also certain times the vendors, is very important for us for the buying agent industry. And we've been doing that. However, having said that, we would love to know more about any other area or any other place where you feel such an effort could actually yield more results to us. So if you have any forays where you feel that if we do a webinar here or if we do an interaction here, this might be of benefit for the members and for the industry as a whole, to kind of promote ourselves as a very strong pillar of the export industry in India, we'd love to hear that from you, and we would definitely consider and take that forward.
So if you give me 10 seconds, I can tell you exactly the specific part in the supply chain where I've noticed this is in the start when we're doing product development. I think the vendor is super keen to work with us. You know, they'll request, you know, our QC, the QC head or whoever it is stays in the factory 24/7. But as soon as that product development turns into a running order, then they're like, you know, what's the use of an agent? So I've noticed this, that, you know, once things become in flow and become easier for the vendor to understand, also there could be, I'm not saying there could be potential for friction. So I think there should be an overall concerted effort to, you know, highlight our importance across different stakeholders.
Okay, so I believe what you're saying is that we should educate the vendor a little more about the buying agents. And there again, I would say there has been a lot of effort made towards that end, because we've been having a lot of interactions with the different EPCs. When we have an interaction with exporter associations or EPCs, we've always had a very positive response from our vendors on the importance of buying agents in the industry. Vishalji, I think you want to reiterate that with me.
Go ahead, Anchal. I was just trying to, because basically it all depends on the relationship you must have developed over so many years with a certain factory or factories.
Correct.
So Kabir, you will get there, don't worry.
You know, these are teething challenges, Kabir. I would say what you're facing is more of teething challenges, but over a period of time, you create your space with your vendors. Okay. You know, there is a certain amount of resistance. I can totally understand your position, because to begin with, I shouldn't really maybe say this in an open platform, but जब तक business है तो vendor हमारा है, जब business नहीं होगा तो vendor किसी और का होगा, is a very common saying in our industry. Vendor will be with you जब तक उसको regular business दे रहे हो, मोटा business दे रहे हो, right? He will do anything that you want him to do. जब नहीं दोगे, then who are you and where are you and why are you वाला situation हो जाता है.
Right.
Anshul, also there's just one thing that I would like to add to this, to what you and Vishal are saying. Kabir, maybe also it's a question of the size of the factory that needs to be, it needs to be what do you call, in sync with what the the buying agency setup it and the buyer is. If the vendor is huge, you will face this problem. If the vendor is too small, you might face this friction. Best is to choose a vendor based on your customer and your size. That's just one.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Very well made point. I would say.
I'd also like to add in something here. I quite agree to what Sandhya said, but I also think that some of the older vendors in terms of years are more reciprocative to agents, because they know that these are guys who've handheld us and they've been with us through thick and thin. And on the other hand, some of the new exporters feel that they can manage their way through, and we guys are here for just the initial bit. So that also could be one of the experiences. But
very true.
Kabir, as we say, it's a matter of experiences. It's just a matter of experiences. As you grow deeper into the industry, add on a few more years, few more white hairs like Vishalji has. I'm still trying to get there. Things change. Things become different. Things become different as to how vendors respond to you, how vendors treat you. So
right, no, it's nothing personal. It's just that I just feel that we're an important clog in the supply chain, and there should be appropriate promotion and awareness according to that.
I'll tell you one very good thing about this entire community that we have created. हमारा क्या होता है यार, अब ना अगर किसी vendor के साथ issue होता है ना, and we know that this person has a good relationship with that vendor, since we are all now nearly friends, I would just simply call कि यार आप कैसे काम करते हो उसके साथ.
I'll also explain, Anchal. A slight difference in the mindset here in the new generation, or of the new generation. When we started out 30-40 years ago, right? हमारे माँ बाप गरीब थे, हमारे बच्चे अमीर माँ बाप के बच्चे हैं. It's the same with the vendors, right? Their kids or the new generation, they have actually inherited all the wealth, the business, everything. They don't think they need anybody. So that difference of thought process will always remain. And has been there. I have never ever faced any kind of rejection in my career in any of the places, be it Moradabad, Jaipur, Jodhpur, that a vendor has said or said that he will go behind my back to work with the client. No, we have never. I personally never experienced. It of course happens all over, but also as you said, Anya said earlier that yes, you have a certain relationship, you grew together, you lost businesses together, you gained businesses together, and you formed that relationship and faith with them over a period of time. But the new generation, I personally feel the younger kids, 25, 30-year-old, they don't give a damn.
They can do it all. They can do it all.
They're born James Bond.
Add here that each interaction can be your learning experience, only to strengthen yourself within, and not to let anybody bypass you, if that's what we are trying to say. For me, I think for the number of years that I've been, each interaction is an experience. And it just leaves you with something to learn about.
Correct.
We still need to learn. We're always learning. Always.
Kabir, all we'll say is we're all there in it together. अगर कोई ज़्यादा परेशान करे तो किसी को उठा लेना, जिसके साथ ज़्यादा business है वो सही कर देगा.
Nothing like that. I think it's to what Vishal sir said. I think that's a very appropriate point. I think that's spot on. Yeah.
Correct. But happy that you are raising issues. We really want a lot more members, and especially the younger people in the trade, like you and me. I would call myself also young. I still don't have as many white hairs as Vishalji or Christine does. I still consider myself on the other side of the table.
Yeah, you're making us white hair wala feel really awkward now.
Oh, Vishal, yeah. I forget you.
Oh, no. I mean, this is all in the genes. I'm happy for whatever I've inherited. I'm very, very happy.
And Kabir, just to add to your point, you're also second generation, so you will probably
relate to it.
Yeah, relate to what's happening with the vendor second generation.
Yes, sir. I think enough's been spoken on the point. So.
Thanks, Kabir. Thanks. We have Sanjay Khurana. Sanjay ji, you'd like to speak?
Yeah, good afternoon. On the same point, what we were just discussing, Vishal sir and I had a discussion that BA should have some recognition of itself, because at this moment we go through either EPCH, DGFT, or other organizations. There's nothing as specifically BA, as we were getting the review of that vendors do not appreciate buying agents, which is partially correct, because sometimes they are used for utility. Like, you want to get the sample developed, that's done. Otherwise, who are you? You don't want to be there. So that was just a thought, because Vishal sir has been coordinating with PhD for some thoughts, or EPCH or DGFT, but we do not have direct interaction as a society.
The idea is what Sanjay is
main
saying.
Point which I wanted to address.
Even though we are a registered body, we are still not registered, or we don't exist in the books of the Government of India, or we are not registered there anyway. So we are trying to create a niche for ourselves, so that tomorrow when we write to someone, we are sort of recognized, say by the Ministry of Textiles or some other ministry, and by the DGFT, that we exist. So we are taking it up. It's just that COVID pushed everything in the background, everything. Even the DGFT offices are closed right now. The Ministry of Textiles is busy doing something different. But that is our aim, that tomorrow when we issue a visiting card to one of our members, their name is on it, you are a BA member, and you are recognized by the Ministry of Textile, for example. So that is the longer term aim for us to take forward.
Basically, Vishal, I think here I'd like to add that it's completely right what Sanjay said and what you just gave your input. But for many, many years, we didn't take this matter up. In fact, for this, our generation, or our, let's say, the people who've been front runners of the buying agency business for many years, we guys didn't really, give ourselves a representation, give ourselves a face, give ourselves a name. We all were doing our bit in our own zones and quietly in our own corners, but we never really got together as a community to represent ourselves together, which is happening in the past 2-3 years, what we've done now. Yes. So, so it just takes time. I think we need to be patient, and I think, we'll get there. Now, slowly people are recognizing the bodies and giving us the hearing and even the credit that you guys are getting business worth so many, millions of dollars into India. So it's coming, but it's just
I just want to butt in here. I think we had this discussion just before just pre-COVID last year, and I think it will be probably minted in one of our meetings.
It is. Yes, you're right.
So we had decided at that time that we should align some of the activities of BW to some of the initiatives of some ministries. So, for example, Ministry of Textiles, if they have some specific focus areas, we should align our activities to those. So we automatically, get invited. But because of the COVID situation happening last year, I think that whole thing got a little delayed. But I think we should take that up again.
Absolutely, absolutely. See, recognition by GOI and other chambers of commerce and ministries has definitely been on the cards for a few years. But important was for us to make a mark in the industry. And we have made that mark in the government circles. We have made that mark. I don't think there is anybody who doesn't know about BA, which has been a great achievement for all of us. So going forward, we are going to formalize this and make efforts that we're formally recognized. And Vipul had a very nice suggestion to make for everybody, saying that we should all have our logo, our BA logo on the emails. We could definitely do that. And I mean, I personally do that all the time. EPCH, BA, SEPC, all of them are there because we are affiliated to all these organizations. Having said that, there is a certain guideline. While you became a member, we floated that guideline on the usage of logo and how we need to use it. I would request you all to please review the usage before you use the logo so that we are not bypassing any of the bylaws of the organization on that. If you want, we'll send out the logo usage guidelines once again, so that if somebody does not have those documents, you can have it again for review. So Avi, please make sure we send it out to all our members again.
Sure.
Sandeep is saying once recognized, BA members can be issued ID cards as well. Sandeep, we do issue membership cards to our members every year on renewal. So I'm not sure if this is some other card that you're really referring to.
Yes, I saw that it's a membership certificate, but actually I was talking about some membership, ID cards that we can show, we can meet when we meet the buyers, the vendors, we can present via the member of BA.
So can we not use the membership card there?
Yes, it's quite big for that. I mean.
No, we have a small membership card. It's like a pocket size.
Oh no, I'm not sure. I'm not aware of it.
Sandeep,
yeah.
We had not been issuing that card for associate category. I don't think you are in an
Okay, yes. Yeah. It could be, yeah.
That's probably the reason.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so taking things forward, we have Sudhir who wants to share something. Sudhir, since we are running out of time, I would request you to share. We would definitely like you to come on board and share with us. So if you could do that a little briefly, we'd like to wrap up in the next 7 minutes.
Hello everyone. I'm Sudhir Groh this side. I have some points to share with all of you, which are quite important. But if you listen carefully and if you find it is worth implementing, you can try that. First of all, I want everybody to feel yourself attached to the BA. Basically, now I think I'm a member for the last 2.5 years now, and I feel myself part of the BA family, very closely associated. And all of us should have a concept of why we bother, why we should bother, because everybody is concerned with his own business. Everybody says, okay, मैंने sources में कुछ डाल दिया. Okay, I get a reply. I'm happy with that. No, we have to go something beyond that. We should have a feeling that, yes, we need to bother to make the BA a much stronger body. Everybody should have a feeling in that. Then only this organization will get more stronger. So I have only views which will make BA a much stronger body, although everybody is doing its bit. Regarding GST, I will take up with the matter with the GST committee who is handling it, where the things are stuck up. Maybe I can try to indirectly guide them so that the things, because right from day one, we have been trying to get the issue sorted out. But maybe some of my suggestions can help it. I will not discuss in detail. Now, I was attending some webinar, I think Monday or maybe Saturday, where the lot of international customers are also present, and their views, the country managers of different companies were there. Their point was raised that because they are not bothered about the orders in hand, they are bothered about the future orders, which is possible only because they are worried on the sourcing from India. That was for, I think it was AEPC show webinar was there. Every buyer insisted that, and every country manager insisted that the vaccination should be done to the exporters' workers, so that they are confident of getting things done from India. Otherwise, they will have to shift the business to the other countries. It can happen. Now, BA as a body can segregate into different production centers, and we have a different buying agents in every production centers. They can help give the list of the exporters they are dealing with or something like that, where the business is going on. So it will help BA to find out because it's a state subject. So suppose it is happening, factory is falling in the UP area, then they have to coordinate with the UP government to make sure those exporters factories are being vaccinated. And also there was a discussion for the garments that they felt that garments should be taken as an essential category, so that things are not stopped. It's taken on a war footing thing. So this is what I want to say about the monitor. Now there are some more things I want to say. Like everybody, we are facing that in groups also. We feel that the person has lost the job. The QA is looking for a job. We can help the person on one-to-one. But I want BA to have more proactive body, to have more proactive steps. First of all, they need to have what we can give the services beyond. The basic things are there, sourcing, help, everybody is doing, helping each other one-to-one. But we need to find that what services beyond the normal scope the BA can provide, which can help the people to feel that, yes, I must join BA. Because there is something which is holding the people, because I have, as per the data which I discussed with somebody, there are about 12,500 buying agents across India. And we have just 150 to 200 members, as I feel. My figure may be wrong because I'm not too aware of the latest thing. First of all, we should do, we have to have a quality controller in every production center. Those quality controllers can be approved by the buying agents in that particular production center. And that particular production center, then the biodata of the QO can be given to the BA, and BA can approve, okay, this is a junior level, this is a senior level, and the rates can be fixed. Because what happens is, person like me cannot afford to hire QO in Jaipur or something like that. I need to have some shipment done in Jaipur. Then what I'll do is I'll ask somebody buying in, if can you help me find some QO there. So somebody may react, somebody may not react, but somebody whose services are approved and authenticated by the production center of that can be on the guidance of the BA. It can be a data which can be needed. Can I have somebody in queue? The BA help desk can give that data. Okay, these are the people whom we feel the services are good. These are the rates. And if you feel you want to use it, it's up to person whether he wants to use the facility or not. So because of the travel restrictions, but suppose I have a shipment in Karur, I would like to find somebody local there to get it done. We can't travel to Karur so easily. Everything is locked down, or there is a lot of travel restrictions. So this suggestion can be helpful if considered right. Now, second point is the documentation. Everybody is not aware of the full documentation. Somebody was a quality controller, somebody was a merchandiser who got the buyer, and they did that. His friends, okay, we will ask CHA or we will ask the exporter. That is not the right way. As a BA community, we have to enrich the knowledge with the every BA member should have some basic knowledge of documentation. We should have a knowledge of the FTAs with different countries. Somebody may not be dealing with Africa, but we should know what FTAs are already in with the various countries, which can help us. What are the applied duties like that? Something like that. That can be area which BA can enrich the members with. Next point is we have organizations like.
I would request you to please wrap up a little quickly. We're already at 1:30, and we have another participant who wants to speak.
Okay, then I'll.
अगर कुछ important है तो आप बोल दो अभी, but very quickly because we are already at 1:30 now.
Okay. Secondly, I feel that we can also have vendor rating systems also, like it was discussion sometime back also in the groups also. We should have vendor rating systems. Like everybody is dealing as a set of vendors, and if some vendors are recommended on these are the small scale vendors, these are the big scale vendors whom the BA will recommend. These are the it's not that we're not trying to demean anybody or defame anybody. Only thing is these are the good vendors. These are the vendors who have really we had a very, very bad experience. We don't recommend them to do that. It can be highlighted. It doesn't have to be on the website, because we're not here to malign anybody, because he may be good with somebody, but may not be good with us. It is a person to person experience. As Vishalji also told you, need to have a rapport with them. This is what I feel. Secondly, we should have some data of the forwarder and the CHAs we recommend, or the shipping lines for various main destination that the goods are shipping at. If the data is like, for example, in COVID situation, we had a data of oxygen people who are doing it, something like that. It helps the people in need. If somebody wants to have this kind of help, person feels I should not put so much thing in the BA group, people will get offended, something like that. I want to have something, an open atmosphere in the BA help desk committee, which is the person can reach out to them without getting any fear or something like that. The BA should be happy to help them out for the basic thing. Secondly, we should also have some legal desk. Somebody is facing a problem of the loss of payment or some kind of a dispute within the members, or some with the buyer. There should be a legal desk to address this more professionally and guide them. We can have 2-3 advocates on our panel. Secondly, we should have ECGC and DNB. These are the two organizations where we can find out the quality of the buyer, whether the buyer is authentic or not. And this is a facility which everybody of us wants to know. We can have the rates negotiated with those kind of organization as a BA, as a body. Then those rates can be discounted for the members of BA. So that will really help us, all the members, because if you're dealing with some other country, Seychelles or some other country where we don't know the buyer, And if the services are available to ECGC with the help of the BA, and if recommended via BA member, we want to know about this. If they get some discount, it will be helpful for the members. This is what I want to say. I'll put everything on the email also. So that
would be very helpful. A quick answer to your request on various helps that members need from time to time in terms of legal, logistic, forwarders, and this and that. I do think BA has an open policy whereby members have written back to us asking for clarity in terms of some legal matters, asking for help in terms of logistic matters, different matters. And I don't think BA has ever not answered those queries to our members. So I think our members have a view that we're very open towards helping whenever there is any issue that has come up, whether it is legal or it is logistics or is it is containing SEIS, anything. BA has always been open to it. And yes, we will also take few formative and firm ways of taking this forward. Thank you so much. We have Vishwas. Vishwas, as I already said, we have very little time now left. If you could please share your views very briefly.
30 seconds.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Hi, and great to see you all. Just I wish to say that as BA always promoted the small buying agents and motivated them. So if in the virtual fair also some buyers would be visiting and asking for the buying agents, or if the buying agent can approach them, then please share the detail. And if not coming, then also it's fine. I'm saying this because some other bodies are also doing that. So it's just a request or thing of consideration.
This has been a matter of deep dilemma for the entire GB of BA.
Yeah.
And as a matter of ethics and policies, what we did decide to do is not to take the buyer's details at all.
Okay.
You know, because it's always open to question, kya BA ki GB pehle le leti hai sare buyers and fir members ko pass on karte. So we don't want to get into those matters which can be questionable on BA as a whole, as a body. So what we decided is we are not going to take any buyer's details. What we do is to send out list of the entire member body, which is all of us members put together and our directory. So whenever there is a buyer who visits us, we always tell them that we are going to send out your details to the entire, our members' details to them rather than the other way around. And then they can contact with whichever buying agent that they would like most comfortable to connect with. So sorry, not able to help here, but then I think for us, ethics are profound and most important. And because of that, we did take this very controversial decision. It was not easy because we couldn't figure out a modus operandi of doing it in a way where nobody is being questioned. So this was the best way we could answer this particular matter.
Fine.
Yeah?
Fine.
Done. I think we should call a close to the meeting. I would invite Tanya, our Joint General Secretary, to call this meeting closed. And we would look forward to all of you getting together as enthusiastically as you've done this time in the future meetings as well. Tanya, may I request you to come?
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you, Aanchal and Vishalji, for, initiating this open house today. It was much needed. It's been long that we all met and we discussed a lot of, water has passed under the bridge in the last few months. And this was a much needed conversation that we needed to hold. And thank you everybody. Thank you all the members for joining in, sharing all your very, very constructive viewpoints, some of you with your very, very interesting feedback. It's always welcome. And of course, the backend office is going to be working. Abhi is going to be working on sharing the information that we just suggested. And thank you very much for joining in and looking forward to seeing you all more often. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. And thank you all for joining us today. We look forward to more interaction in the future. Thanks all, and thanks all for your inputs.
Thank you so much.
See you soon again.
Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe.
Stay home. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Same to you, Tanya. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.